Alright guys, today I'm here with Jeremiah from Wilde Arrow Archery. This is the archery shop where we always build and shoot our bows you see on our videos. And we're going to take you through a basic how to set up a bow out of the box. So what to do from beginning to end. And Jeremiah, being the technician he is, he's going to take that over and I'm just here to film. So I'm shooting the new Hoyt Pro Defiant. This is a 31 axle to axle. And he's going to show us what to do right out of the box. So first step, where do you start with this?
So usually what I like to do is pull the bow out of the box and just make sure that everything looks good. You know, whether UPS kind of damaged it, or maybe sometimes, you know, guys from the factory forget to put a part on. So I'll just kind of do a quick visual inspection, make sure the bows look good. And then the next thing I like to do before I start bolting anything on is I want to make sure I get the draw length and the poundage set, because when you adjust the draw length, it can actually affect what they call cam synchronization. And even backing out the poundage can have a little bit of effect on there. So before I bolt anything on, we're going to measure your draw length. We'll set that, set the poundage, and then from there we'll go ahead and start putting stuff on the bow. And how we determine, well, we come up with these numbers here is we take your wingspan, usually from the middle finger, your wingspan, we divide that by 2.5. And that is a very good starting point for most of our archers. What we look at from there is really when we custom fit a bow, like depending on your release and how you like to anchor, that's how we'll determine if we're going to go a ½ inch shorter or a ½ inch longer typically. Okay. But this measurement here gets us within that ½ an inch a lot of times.
Alright, so I'm going to do my wingspan. Where do I start? Yeah. Shoulder width, finger.
Yep,
tip
perfect
tip.
finger.
Look good,
yep.
Standing straight,
yep.
tall.
Bring that other one up, bring that hand down. Yep. So on the wall, you're a little over 26.5 to that 26.75 range roughly. And so, you know, depending again, you like 27, you're pretty good.
I think that's where I've been, so we're going to start there.
Okay.
Now we're going to check and set my draw weight, which I'm used to about 68 to 70 pounds. I feel comfortable there. I can get a nice smooth draw and I can hold back for quite a while and I don't have to struggle. So setting this up, does that mean I need to go maxed out, or?
Yeah, you can just leave the limb bolts maxed out against the riser. And if you look here, the limb pocket is actually touching against the riser right there. And so that means it's pretty much maxed out. And a lot of these bows will pull maybe 1 pound to 2 pounds over from the factory, which is fine. That's not a big deal. As far as setting draw weight goes, getting very technical, when you back out the bow's draw weight, it can actually increase the true draw length of the bow, and that's why I like to set that as I'm setting the draw length. But as far as where you set it to, if you feel comfortable 68 to 70 pounds, great, shoot it there. But my rule of thumb is don't sacrifice accuracy for speed. If you can't draw the weight comfortably, you can't hold the bow on target, you're just going to miss quicker. So yeah, set it wherever you feel comfortable. So
you're just gonna miss quicker. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So what is the next step to get that thing dialed in?
So now what we're gonna do is just kind of do a rough check on what we call cam synchronization, and that basically means we want both the top and the bottom cam rolling together. So you see there's a little post right up here. There's a black post up on top here, and there's a red post on the bottom cam here. So what you can do is, you know, some guys have what they call a draw board, which is basically a mechanical device that will draw the bow without an arrow in it, and we can look at that, or I just sometimes, just as a quick reference, I'll just pull it down on the scale. The other thing we want to look at just a little bit here is cam lean on top. And what happens with cams, and a lot of people, you know, get confused about what cam lean is, but really what cam lean is from what we call static position here to full draw, cams can shift and lean, and even risers can flex, okay? So what now I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at your cam synchronization and cam lean at full draw and kind of get those very, very close before we start even putting on a loop. Here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pull the bow down. I'm going to look at see what its max poundage is hitting from the factory, as well as kind of take a close look at your cam synchronization. Be very careful doing this. I see a lot of guys that they'll pull the bow down, they'll twist it, and it derails their bow and pops the string off. We see that happen a lot. So we just want to make sure you pull straight down from the bow.
We're watching these guys.
Yeah, so pretty dang close. Maybe the top cam is out just a tiny bit. So see how that red post is there? But that top black post is not quite touching, so it bounces off. So that tells me I'm going to have to fix that top cam. And if you look at the scale, we pulled out 71 pounds right out of the box there. So this is just going to be a quick reference, a quick guide to measure cam lean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the arrow on the shelf side of the bow. I'm going to run it against the top cam, and I'm going to see where that arrow kind of intersects the string. And kind of a rule of thumb that we like to use as a good starting point is, if you could imagine where a string loop would be here, if I run that arrow and run it against the cam, the arrow is going to intersect the string right about where the string loop's at. So that means that top cam lean's set pretty dang close there. From there, we'll kind of fine tune it as we go along. So.
Alright guys, we're gonna hurry and throw on my accessories. I went with like a neon green this year. Wilde Arrow sells these custom kits. You can get, heck, all kinds of colors, right? Yeah. You can go on the Hoyt website and find out all the different colors. Yeah. I went with green. I think it's gonna look sweet on black. So we're just gonna change out the grip, the, what's this called, the bumper? Or?
Yeah, like a string stop.
String stop.
Yeah.
And these accessories.
Yeah,
and
just pull those out.
It's gonna look awesome.
So this is the Hoyt Ultra Rest here. It's actually made by a company called Wilde Archery Designs. It has the same features, but if you buy a Hoyt bow, we highly recommend go with the Hoyt version. The reason being is this mount block here is specifically designed to fit to the riser. So with different rests on different bows, there's kind of like a sweet spot, or like an optimal tuning spot. Well, what the Hoyt engineers have done is they designed this bracket to where when you tighten this rest to the riser, it's going to automatically align it to the right position there. So yeah, if you buy a Hoyt and you like the Hoyt Ultra, like an Ultra Rest, get the Hoyt version of it. It's about an extra $10, but it's well worth it when you start to go bolt it to your bow. Nice and smooth. Nice and smooth. I like to snug those down pretty tight. And then the Hoyt one, you get this sweet little cover.
Oh, I got me a custom cover, huh?
That's right.
Nice.
Now I'm just going to kind of eyeball what we call center shot. So if you kind of look at it from the back angle here, you can see that the rest, we want to make sure that rest is kind of coming down through the center. If you line the string through the center of the riser, it's going to cut kind of down through the rest. That's a good starting point for center shot. It's not everything, but it's a good starting point. So, and again, on the Hoyt rest from the factory, they pretty much line up right where you want them to be.
Yeah, that's pretty money.
Yep. So
would you make any micro adjustments there?
No, left and right looks pretty good. The only thing I'm going to look at now is height, which is pretty much perfect as well. When the rest comes down, you can see there's just a tiny gap from the rest to that rubber pad on the shelf there. If you move it too far down, your rest will actually hit that and cause some issues. So when I lift the rest up and I drop it, you can see if I leave a little bit of a gap underneath, then the height is set correctly. Now I know where I'm going to start my string loop at here.
What I like about this rest is that it does come with this felt, and he'll show you exactly how to apply it.
Yeah, so what you want to do is kind of create a V down the bottom. I like to start kind of in the bottom here. Try not to touch the sides. And then what you're going to do is kind of work that felt down into the rest on each side. Like so. And then just going to kind of press it down and around. And that's what I like to see. So I don't have any big gaps in that felt there. It's all kind of tucked down together. And then from there, we're still going to go ahead and actually, we use a serving or a tie-in on these. Not only does it look good, it'll match, but this felt over time, say you hunt in wet or cold weather, you'll see the edges start to peel up. So if you tie it on there, you don't have to worry about your felt coming off while you're hunting. Plus being a southpaw, it's always easier on a right-handed bow. You do a lot more of those. So what I like to do is we have these little vise levels here. These are called Van Handle. It's probably one of the better levels out there on the market. If you guys are going to get some for home use, get this one. But what we're going to do is just throw that level on there, make sure that bow's, level this direction here, and then I'm just going to kind of temporary tie on a knot. I'm not going to set anything, but what we're going to do is run this string loop. You see I've already melted the ends, but we're going to come here, underneath, back around, and through. You can see here it kind of tightens down on itself. Now this is where I see most people make mistake. And tying on a loop, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but this is what I like to do is bring it to the left side, back down through, kind of pull this tight up against the knock, down, around, and back through. The reason I do it that way is if you can see that this knot's facing this direction and that knot's facing that direction, it helps that loop from not wanting to twist as much while it's on the string. Sometimes you'll see a loop that wants to always twist around. I think if they're on the same side, that causes that. So yeah, try them that way. They work pretty good.
What I can't believe and surprises me is that the dang D-loop can hold back 70 pounds of pressure just from a knot like that.
Yeah.
Who invented that knot?
I don't know. I've used it for years. That was taught to me, so I just kind of go with it. So I'm sure a Boy Scout somewhere came up with it. Huh? This also comes part of that band handle kit. These things are awesome. So that kind of gives us a really good idea about our knock level. So that's a little knock high. So I'm just going to bump this down just a tiny bit on this end. That's why I haven't really set that loop too tight yet. That's about where we're going to start tuning. So, you know, there's other ways to do that. You can use a T-square system. You know, I like the levels. They're just fast and easy. But you just basically want to start at that 90 degree, and then as you kind of tune, if you need to micro adjust that knocking point up or down a little bit, you can. So this is outer limits. This is just like a knock loop set. And what we're going to do is just kind of pull that through there. And then these come on here. And I'm not going to crank on this really, really tight. I'm just going to do kind of a medium pressure. Just get that knot set. You can see it kind of tighten these down and set the loop to the correct length that we want to have there. So, but that's a pretty standard loop size. Certain shooters, some people like a shorter loop. Other shooters prefer a longer loop. So you guys can kind of play around with that. Changing the loop can actually move your anchor point. Some people like that longer loop, get their hand a little bit deeper. Some people don't like that, they like that shorter. So don't be afraid to play around with different loop sizes until you find the one that helps you anchor to the best, the correct spot basically. Now I got everything leveled and squared. Cam sync's looking good. We're gonna have to tie this. This is the rest cord here. We're gonna tie this into your down cable. So as you draw, this cable will actually pull the rest up and also tell the rest one to drop. So this is, now we're gonna use this to time the rest based off of your draw weight. Make sure that string is relaxed. There's kind of a personal preference, but I like to come down to kind of towards the bottom part of the grip and about usually where I'd like to start the cable on this particular rest. Seems like a good sweet spot for tuning. Just try to separate these strands as equally as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as you don't have too many strands on one side versus the other. I'm just going to run that cable up through there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of tension back on there. Now, this is kind of a personal preference, but I don't like this cable when it's facing the opposite direction of my rest. So like if I pull this down, you can see how it wants to twist that loop, or if I push it up, it's going to twist it away. So when I set it down in the string, I try to get this cable to kind of angle towards the direction of the rest. It just looks cleaner and it won't start twisting around as you go to shoot. So hey, I just wanted to show you guys this. This is actually a clamp system that comes from Wilde Archery Designs. So if you guys don't have a bow press, but you still need to hook the down cable to this is a little clamp system. It comes with a little screw nut, and it just kind of clamps everything together. And these work really well. Problem is, while you're hunting, they can come loose. So just keep an eye on them. Make sure you keep them tight. We prefer to tie it in here. That way, I know that that cable is the only way it's coming out of there. Something's going to have to break for that thing to come loose or move. So we're going to actually serve this into this down cable now. We just like the nylon thread. Different kinds out there. We're going to do it with black. So we're just going to do what we call half hitch knots. So I'm going to wrap it through itself here and kind of snug that down. And I'm just going to keep wrapping the same direction as I go down towards that cable. And I'm pulling this knot really tight every single time. So we don't want this to slip up or down. If this moves up or down, it'll change the timing of our rest. I'll just keep snugging this down, moving towards that cable. Now when you get here, what I do is I just come around to the opposite side, same direction. Just keep looping it through, down and around. You see how I just lock that in there nice and tight. And it looks clean too. You're not going to have a big bulky clamp on your cable now. I always like to pull out the press for this part, just for the fact that heat always goes up. And I've seen too many guys fray their string with a lighter. So take your bow out when you do this. Make sure that heat and that flame's going away from your string. Just like so.
Nice.
Yep. We just got it bow set up in our our draw board. This one's from Last Chance. There's a couple different ones out there on the market, but they all essentially do the same thing. What this allows me to do is draw the bow back without having an arrow in. It's kind of a little safety loop, so hopefully nothing will go wrong. But we're just going to crank this back. We're going to look at two things here. We're going to look at your cam synchronization. Make sure those cams are perfectly dialed in. We're also going to see when that rest is lifting. So you can see the top cam is slightly faster than the bottom one now. But see how this rest is too loose? What we're going to do is I'm going to pull this tight in here to get that rest to lift up. Okay? I'm going to let it back down just a little bit. Pull this a little bit tighter. And then I'm going to go crank it back again. Yeah, looking good. So nice medium tension there. You want the rest to lift about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch before those posts roll around. And then see when I hit the cable there, there's really not a play in the rest there. They're good. So cam sync looks good. Rest timing is good. It's kind of cool to see those bows at full draw and how much curvature they get in those.
Yeah, look at that thing.
Inside, it's crazy, huh? So yeah, pretty cool. So we'll take it out of there now, and then the next step is to have you shoot it actually. So
all right, I'm gonna put my first arrow through this bad boy, and hopefully we'll be shooting straight right out of the box. We'll see.
Hopefully one take, huh? One
take.
shot. Sweet. Okay, yeah, stand about right there, and then I'll just kind of, I want to see how everything looks as you draw back. Make sure that we got Brown Santa at the back door today.
He's gonna have to wait.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that feels so good.
Yeah, looks good. Dude, first shot. That's pretty damn close. We'll make some minor adjustments and that thing will be dialed in.
Jeremiah is going to talk about how to fine tune that to the shooter's hand, not just to the bow, but to the shooter.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people, when I see them setting up bows at home, they'll get a little bit of a tear like that. And most of the time, guys will end up just adjusting the rest. And that sometimes puts a band-aid on what's going on there, like how the spine of the arrow, or even how you put your grip into that pressure. Pressure into the grip, I guess you could say. Anyway, that has a lot to do with paper tuning. So what I tell guys is there's multiple things to look at there. Don't just start moving that rest back and forth until you see the result through paper, because sometimes a perfect bullet hole, perfect paper tune does not mean your bow is going to shoot accurately. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to look at cam lean and what we call yoke tuning, and we're going to fine tune that to your hand. So there's a couple of things out there that are like a Hooter shooter, which is a mechanical shooting device, that I hear guys that are tuning their bows out of that, but then they have to hold the bow exactly how the Hooter shooter did. I would rather tune the bow to your hand, exactly how you like to shoot it, and let the bow be repeatable to you. So what we're going to do is just make one small little adjustment here. I think the next shot's going to be money. So,
all right, we're back in the bow press, doing some tuning.
Some fine tuning there. We're just going to take another half a twist out of this yoke here. Put that back on. Now we're going to go shoot through paper one more time and see what happens here.
Here we go, shot number 2. Dang, that feels good.
Yeah. Took it just a little too far there. So the first shot here is technically knock right. So the tip of the arrow came here and the back of the arrow went to the right. The next shot here was opposite. The front of the arrow went in here and the back of the arrow went to the left. So now what I'm going to do is I only did a half a twist in those yokes. I'm going to put another half twist in that left side, and it should kind of correct for what we're doing. Ooh, I think he almost hit the same hole, but that looks really good. Look at that one. It's underneath, but that's really good. Yeah, that was moving that by a half of a twist. So you can see how sensitive those bows can be on that. So cool. But yeah, looking good, man. So how do you feel?
Honestly, I can't wait to shoot this. We don't have the sight that I'll be shooting this year, so we can't finish that. But is there anything else we can do today?
We can finish bolting on like your quiver, some stabilizer, stuff like that. But at least mechanically, the draw length, the poundage, and how the bow is delivering the arrow is all set. So yeah, it's good to go. All
right, guys. If you're around Salt Lake, if you're around Ogden, or up here in Layton, come check out Wilde Arrow so you can get your new bow tuned up. Come early. These guys are getting slammed, and archery season is coming quick. But that bow is set up, ready to go. We're just going to add the quiver real quick just for fun, the stabilizer, which is easy, and I'm shooting the black gold Wilde Arrow edition sight this year.
Yeah, custom edition sight.
So when we get that with the micro dials and everything, we're going to put that on. But for now, that is how you set up and fine tune a bow right out of the box. That's quick and easy.
Yep.
Thanks, man.
Yep.